Hello. I have no viewers yet, so I'm just going to talk to myself because this is super special chat. There's a thing back here. Look at that thing. Y'all been talking about that thing. I'll wait for a few people to pop in. Hey, there's 2 viewers now. Hey, guys. Do you see this thing back here? Yeah, it's pretty sweet. There's a thing. There's like 5 rolls of filament on it, too. Well, actually, 4. I've been swapping filament. Let me pull the chat out, and that way I can take a questions and all that fun stuff. Hey, Josh, I am a dirty dog. Pop out the chat. Oh my gosh. This was supposed to be last night's chat, but it didn't happen because I was waiting for an article to post because I was on a veil of secrecy until that article posts. Now the veil has been lifted and I'm super excited, but I'm also super exhausted. I didn't get much, some nice looking gold ready. It has been printing. So, this bear was printed on the MMU2 in that gold. So this isn't actually a 2-color print with a color change. That is, you know, an MMU print. I've got a bunch of prints. I got a bunch of stuff. In the past 3 weeks, this is all the wipe towers. Those are all my wipe towers for the last 3 weeks. I have been printing nonstop. I mean, some of these are beautiful wipe towers. I mean, these colors, they look ridiculous. I mean, it looks like candy, like a parfait candy. There's so many of these little lovely wipe towers. And they get smaller. I mean, these actually aren't bad. I mean, I should probably find the print I printed with it. That way I can compare and contrast. Hey, what up, P. Shea Webb? Yeah. I don't know what to say. There's a thing back here. It's not printing at the moment. I was sent some brand new firmware for the MMU2 and the printer, but unfortunately the printer one isn't working. So I had to send in a little notice, and they're looking at it and why I can't install the new firmware for the printer. So I'll hopefully be back up and running shortly. Let's look at some prints. So one of the very first successful prints I had, because this has been a long road, to put it bluntly, it was a very difficult road to get to a working printer. And it wasn't the fact that it wasn't that it wasn't ready. It was the fact that they just need to test more. And that's where everyone came in. So short, long story, Prusa has been in beta for it for a while. And then they had an open beta to select people who may or may not say who they are. I will not release their names if they don't want to be, because no one wants to be bugged about questions about something that they tested. I don't mind. But in the beginning, it was rough. Lots of clogging issues, lots of half prints, lots of half sheep. One of the things we had to print was a sheep. I have a lot of half sheeps. But I finally got it working. They've been working on the profiles because there's just so much filament. That was the biggest issue, is with the MMU2, you need to make sure the filament works. And they did all the work. They sat down. They had people literally running, I think it was 60 or 90 printers with MMU2s, just constantly printing different filament, testing things. And can you do 5? Yes, you can do 5 completely different materials in one print. The current list of materials that work are PLA, ABS. They just sent a PETG profile and BVOH, and they're continuing to add more as they continue to test away different materials. I've only printed PLA because I don't have ABS. Those are the 2 that we were given to test, because they really wanted to hammer us out with all the different PLAs. Because that's the thing, is any of these multi-material units, it's not just every PLA works. It's every PLA is a little bit different. Yeah, Flex was on the release video. They just didn't send it to us. That was more in-house. They gave us a certain thing to test, and we'd test it. But look, I made the snail. The snail I sliced myself, and it's in Prusa Silver and Prusa Galaxy. And this is when I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's the coolest thing ever. It took a while to get there. I had a lot of issues on my end because I was sent an original beta unit, and the original beta unit, the parts weren't finalized. So there was a lot of mechanical issues in the beginning, which you're going to have. And it was literally like 5 days later, like, here's all new parts, print them. So that was a fun, like 18 hours of printing all new parts. This is the blue something. Yep, I just got it yesterday because I hate bad audio quality, and this thing sounds amazing. And also I can monitor off of it. So I plug it into the printer, the audio comes back through it, and I plug the headphones into the microphone, and I can hear myself. So I can monitor now. That was the lamest thing on Google Hangouts. That's what's used to broadcast to YouTube. So yeah, I mean, I went through, here's my random prototype that I printed in different colors of parts. This was the final. These are the parts you'll be getting, except for maybe the selector's different. That might be different. I don't know. They've sent us a couple of those. But yeah, this was the first prototype one that I had printed. I was not a good choice for testing. There were people on there that were testing, and literally immediately they were getting success. I was struggling. Struggle bus for me. This microphone does make a good radio voice. Yeah, it was an interesting experience sitting there going like, okay, why isn't this working? And you know me, I didn't stop. I printed nonstop for a long time and went through a lot of growing pains, a lot of frustration, a lot of reprinting parts in ugly colors because I just was like, I'm not going to waste good colors to reprint this thing. Which they looked at me funny in the beta test chats. They're like, I made it a standing challenge to make the ugliest MMU2 because it kind of made the main developer Alex a little unhappy. He's like, why can't it just be orange? It's like, why can't it just be pink and orange and white and blue? And let's see. I noticed it said chop misfed filament, able to detect if it didn't feed properly. So, yeah, there is a filament sensor. There is a pin to probe, and that was on the big article that they just posted. Hey, Don. There is a Pinda with a ball bearing, so it uses a physical filament sensor, and it works great. That was actually kind of a stroke of genius. The little filament comes in underneath the ball bearing, and then it pushes the ball bearing up, and when it gets close enough to the Pinda triggers, and it's like, I've got filament. And if the Pinda ball drops, the Pinda probe turns off, and Viola, it notices that it's missing filament. Yeah, pink and brown MMU2 would be really disgusting. So that's my challenge to everyone. Print the ugliest MMU2 you can and post them on Facebook. I'll join you soon because now they have all the parts here. I have the one in orange. I do have a black piece on it. They sent a new selector. They could upgrade the filament sensor that way, but I think there's better ways. Not to sidetrack off of the MMU2, but JLTX, the guy who did the Skella extruder, he developed a method of using a regular bearing, and it goes between the laser sensor and the filament. And the filament, as it passes by, spins the bearing, and the bearing isn't filament. It doesn't get confused, and it notices the motion of the filament, so it knows if it's out. If it stops spinning, it's out. There are other ways of making the laser sensor more accurate, because the laser sensor still has one benefit in that it tracks motion. So it knows things that a mechanical on-off switch doesn't. So, but yeah, they went with a simple route. They just used Pinda probes with a really short cable. I just moved everything because I was like, I can't talk about this last night. So, yeah, it could detect jams too. The jamming, so that was an issue in the beginning when we were beta testing. It was jams because the tips, retractions on tips were a little awkward. You'd get really fat tips, really skinny tips, tips with tails. And then when you try to push them back into the hot end, they would get jammed in the PTFE tube, or they'd get jammed somewhere in the system because there's that long orange PTFE tube. So they might get jammed in there. That was solved pretty quickly. I think like a week. Took them like a week to figure out, hey, there's a new ramming sequence we can do, and it makes the tips tiny. And ever since then, we don't get jams. You know, because let me see here. Like, here's this beautiful. I did these lizards at the same time, and you get a jam, and the eyeballs, as you can see, didn't turn out. You missed a layer because of that. But once they solve that. Once you solve that, you get really nice lizards. I mean, again, this was like my third or fourth successful print once I figured out what I had to do. And Prusa released an amazing profile. They sat down and they worked on a PLA profile, which works really well with lots of different materials, a lot of different PLA brands, which was kind of their goal. They want to be able to make it easy, which is still very complicated. Yes, I believe the MMU1 will probably get better ramming sequences. I don't quote me on it, but they did a lot of magic. There was a guy, Peter. I could look it up, actually. Let me see his name. He's one of the guys. He's been a software engineer for like 40 years. To give that a number, I'm 35, and he's been doing software for 40. So he's got some experience. Let's see what his name is. I believe it's Peter. Let me click on him. Click on his name in the secret chat. Let's see here. Yeah, Peter Rumble. He does a lot with KISS Slicer, and KISS has a different ramming sequence. So they were able to work out a nice mathematical equation to figure out how to make a better tip, because I wish I had my little box of tips sitting back there. I don't feel like getting up. I'm exhausted. But yeah, the tip sequence, or the tip, was the biggest thing. And that's what a lot of questions were like, how do you, yeah, the tips are the reason why anything fails when you have to retract something out of a hot end. And that also got to me why. So I know you guys noticed I might have posted a video on how to properly build an E3D-V6. That's why that video came out. We found out that, I didn't find out, no include me in that, but Prusa found out that how you build that hot end matters for the tip. So I remember we were discussing trying to get that nozzle as close as possible to the heat block to get the heat break to be extended as far away as possible from the heat block, again, on the outside end. That made tips better. And it should, because your cold end becomes colder faster, so you get better tips. So make sure your hot ends are built properly. You will get a special PTFE tube liner that is cut specifically for it. It'll go in your hot end, and that also helps. So you'll want to be as stock as possible on your hot end, and it doesn't affect the print quality. Print quality has been amazing. I mean, these things are super pretty. Gary Snails, yay, Gary the Snail. With just mostly stock. That printer's literally stock behind me. The only thing I have on there's a couple Zerabo parts from the Veco, and other than that, it's a stock hot end, R3, the R3 extruder parts, and the MMU2. There's nothing fancy, and it works great. Here's a 3-color with Vertigo Gray, Prusa Silver, and Prusa Galaxy. Super cute, and the print quality is phenomenal. With there's like almost no issues with lines. I mean, they're super smooth. Hey, Olaf. So yeah, it's just stunning how nice the print quality is. So here's one of my first 2-color ones. This was silver and black Prusa, and again, the print quality is Pretty fantastic. It's all stock. I don't know how it's going to handle different nozzle sizes. We've only used it on the 0.4, but I don't see the ramming sequence being changed for that. Oh, there's definitely a purge block. This is my 3 weeks of print testing purge blocks. This is 3 weeks of printing. That thing did not stop running at all. I never gave it a break. I pushed it as far as I could with one person, one printer. So I have a lot of purge blocks. Actually, I have another purge block because I finished printing this giant Adelina. It had a little error on it. That filament hasn't been tested yet. So I've been working on a profile for that. So the pink didn't turn out for the film for the stuff, but the purge block was gigantic. Yeah, the purge blocks are much smaller. They're actually really ridiculously small, especially when you print little things like this little 2-color Marvin, which was another one of my first prints. And then so they did a lot of that. So I don't know how it works with the bigger, smaller, whatever nozzles, but I don't feel like it should change because the nozzle has nothing to do with the ramming sequences. I wish it was running so you can see it doing ramming sequences. You also may notice that my setup is very different. One of the things that I did change on my MMU2, hey, 3D Gustner, is I don't use the included spool holder arms. So the way it handles retractions is there's a little arm that attaches to the spool holder. And that arm, when the filament is pulled out, the arms close and it makes a nice straight path. And then when the filament retracts, since the lowest amount of resistance is in air, the filament pushes the other arm away and it makes a loop and you don't get snags. The downfall being is I kept getting snags because my desk isn't set up for exactly the way they want it set up. So you will see me be dropping a Thingiverse I made an STL that has a different style clip that clips onto the standard spool holders it comes with to give you better reliability. Also work because a lot of people are going to ask, like, how do I use this with a lack? Where can I put my rolls? With a system they have, it's very specific. You have to have it behind because that's the way the arms work. The arms only work with one direction. If you turn the spool in a different direction or have it in a different space, you can have it a little bit higher behind, so you can put it like on a shelf behind, but it literally always has to be behind. So with the setup I have, it uses, let me grab it. I should have a mock-up of it. Unos Momentos, you can just stare at this while oh, there's that giant purge block. That was the Adelina purge block. That thing is, look at look at the height of the spool. Look at the height of the purge block. That thing's crazy. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Luke. Which I just got a pallet yesterday. The pallet also needs to be very specific where you put your filament rolls. And so any of these multi-material units get very particular. But this is actually nice. So what I did was, let me pop this thing off. So I just made this little clip with a pass-through Festo. And all that does is it clips onto the front of your spool holder. And let me move that out of the way so I can talk to the microphone again. So path of least resistance. So the other end has the PTFE tube. So on a retraction, the two PTFE tubes actually separate from each other, and it makes that loop, which allows you to move stuff because now you're not limited by that arm. So the arm doesn't have to swing and have room to swing. You can mount your spool on a wall. Picked up a rep cord filament holder for the wall, and it should work. You just have to clip one end of the PTFE somewhere and the other end so that way you don't have too much weight pulling on the roll and it starts unspooling. But having the two ends of PTFE work the best in my experience. A lot of the testers did not have issues because they had plenty of room to set up their MMU2. I like this setup where I can just have all my rolls right in front of it. Most people's desks are wider than they are deep. So it allowed me to continue to look at my printer the way I wanted to look at it and work on it. Let's see here. Hey, Brian. Did you not go into work today, Brian? Hey, Thomas. Yeah, you could do a pulley type system. We've been chatting about all kinds of different setups. The two filament or the two PTFE tubes trying to find each other, it just works because if there's a tangle, the benefit of having the two PTFE tubes is when it's trying to insert the filament is the loose end tries to find. It'll snake around and try to find the other end. So there's a less chance of snags, which is awesome. Let's see here. Between the MMU and the palette, you can see. Yeah, okay. And then, yeah, so let me, oh boy, that's a name I don't think. Manusos. That's probably the worst sounding version of your name ever. Yeah, so let me screen share. Let me bring the latest secretive version of Slicer to the forefront. And I can show you what he's asking. He's asking, can you use different profiles for different things? And of course you can. So let me pull that up. So hopefully everyone can see this. This is the beta 2. This is the 10th beta that I've had to play with. There's been 10 betas of Slicer for the beta team. But over here, you've got your 5 different filaments. And you can choose whatever you want for any filament. So you can pick generic whatever. So here's PETG, PLA, whatever. And you can make your own. So you can print any, you can pick any profile. You can make your own. You can choose them. You can choose whatever, profile. So there's a little purge block that pops up. Do I have any multicolor prints here? Nope. Let me find a multicolor print. So let me hop over to the Googles. And let's go to Thingiverse. And I'll pull up a multi-material print. So signing in, and me and my collections and all my MMU prints. So let's pick something fun. Let's pick, what do I have that has enough cool colors? I can make it work with, yeah, let's do the chameleon. I love this guy. I think the chameleon is one of my favorite prints. All right, I'm back. Now you can see my screen, correct? Let's see here. It will get posted. This automatically gets saved. So files. All right. So this is how this works. If you're in Slicer, the most important part that I learned when you're doing all this is you need to drag whichever one is touching the ground. So for me, this one's the body. The body gets inserted. It's touching the bed. You're good to go. By the way, this one does have the face to whatever button. So I can touch a plane like, oh no, that's so weird. Let's go back to this. There we go. So that's how that touch to face works. But you have to have the one that's touching the bed in first, and then you double click it, and you go to load part, and you load all the other parts. So mouth, eyes, pupil, back, open. And I don't know why I sent it over there. Maybe I shouldn't use the beta one. Look at me. So it put it all in the wrong spot. That is weird. Let me close out of this one. Let me go not to that. I haven't even tested this version yet. So screen share, stop. I'm back. Let me go open up the version of Slicer that I know works. Dun, 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 dun. I haven't tried mixing materials. My goal was to do, so they kind of set us on the path. They gave us a direction. They go, guys, I know you want to play, but I want you to pretend to be someone who just got a Mark III, who just got an MMU2, and figure it out. Which most people are going to just download cool stuff. They're going to slice it. They're going to do whatever, and they're going to print it. Most of them aren't going to go like, oh man, I really want to mix these materials. So I haven't gotten there. That's on my list. So let me screen share the stable version of Slicer, stabler version. All right, here we go. So let's go ahead and load the body again. So we're going to load the body. Double click that. We're going to load all the parts for it. So mouth there, boom. And there it is. It is all together. And from here, you can select each part. So body can be color 1, mouth can be color 3, eyes will be color. So whatever you've got them set to, you would know what your colors are. Pupils would be 5 and back would be, I don't know, 4. Maybe I used 4. Maybe I didn't use 3. No, I did. Okay. And then you hit OK. And there you go. There's a multicolor print. You can now rotate it and do all that magic. And then you can also select what you want for each color. So filament 1, you know, if you wanted that one to be a mix, you can pick generic PTG and select ABS as another. So you are not limited to one material. But you got to make sure those materials mix, and it will heat to the right nozzle temp between each during the white block. And actually, I'll show you. This is cool. It actually shows you the exact size of the block when it's done. So there's the slice print, still preparing the infill, and then it's going to prepare the block, and that is going to be exactly the size of the block of the print, which is incredible. I think that's awesome. That shows you the exact block, and a lot of that's air. So if we go through here, there's all the cavity of air. It's mostly air in there. So when it's one single color, it just kind of does that, boom, 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 blah, blah, blah. And then the end, it gets a little bit more because there's a lot more colors here in the very end, a lot more color changes. So it gets a little heavier. But then the cool thing is I can add, cancel, more, arrange. Oh, it's thinking now it's mad at me. Shouldn't have hit the arrange button. Let's move this block out of here. I go to preview and slice again. The block is the exact same size. So you can print all these at one time. And if you bring them individually, you can change color. So one could be one could be another. Or if you go back into 3D here, we can, and there's that same size purge block. So you can move it around, picks the width and the height and everything. But you can go fewer and fewer. And then we can load a different object and you can do whatever you want. And there's also, I know someone's going to ask how to purge into it. You can purge into this object's infill, just a little selection here. So it's going to purge in there, and that would change the block a little bit. So let's stop that sharing so I can go back to seeing what you guys are talking about, because when I do that, I can't see nothing. Whoa, there's 50 people in here. So yeah, I haven't mixed anything. May have hit insert individual parts of, yeah, I might have. You don't see that window? Oh man. Should be able to control click the STLs, and yeah. I think it was the window. Gotcha. Definitely interested in potentially mixing TPU. Yeah, mixing the things are awesome. And there is a new, there is a PLA Flex from 3D Phillies in Australia, which prints at the exact same temperature as PLA, which should do better at mixing if you want to do that. So that's another thing. Yes, you can assign, Mano, you can assign something as a support. They just added full support for solubles. So BVOH was just added. I have a 500 gram spool that cost $80 sitting right there for BVOH, which is the best stuff. It is better than PVA, but I haven't messed with it. They have a test object, so you can test it. I just haven't a chance because it's down at the moment because my firmware won't load because I'm one of the few people on a Mac. So I could bring my desktop down here and that has Parallels running on it. Let's see. Do you have any numbers on how much you save with purge to infill? So 3D Gusner, that is heavily dependent on, one, how much infill you have, two, how big of the object is. I mean, if the object is big enough, you would literally not have a purge block. So, I mean, if you did a giant print and there's enough room for it to purge, it'll calculate that, and you'll literally you'll still have a purge block because there might be areas, I mean, it'd be mostly hollow, but there'll be areas where the color changes become more frequent and it needs some more room for a wipe tower. So that is all possible. And I've done some bigger prints. You can also do wipe into object. So this is I did a wiped out. You can't really tell until you look at the top. So I printed something and I used this Qt Octo as a wiped infill, and it just alternated the colors as it was swapping colors. That went along with, I think it was the snail, when I print them at the same time. So this is a wipe to object. So it actually is a really cool effect. So, I mean, if you're only using 2 colors, you basically get a candy striped print. If you have more colors, it would be a little bit weirder. You'll see a lot more test prints coming from the other beta testers for that. That stuff dissolves in warm water. Let's see here. What else we got here? Yeah, the audio is a lot better. I am not using any gate. This is purely, this microphone allows me to pick a direction. So I could pick cardioid, whatever. So it only picks up this range. So it's not picking up this stupid stuff back here like my other one was. From 1 to 10, how do I love it? It is a 7 for me at the moment, only because it still needs more filament development. So it prints awesomely. I will not deny the fact. I mean, this was my one that worked out perfect in the Polyalchemy filaments. It's a 4-color. So that's Prusa red, the lipstick red that they have. Polyalchemy, Emerald City, Gold Rush, their salmon color, and then the blue is for the eyeballs. It is a beautiful print. And when you see things like this pop off of the thing, you're just like, this is amazing. And I printed 2 of these at the same time, and they're gorgeous. Had no issue. The printer now or the setup now is very, very consistent. I think it was like 5 out of 6 prints were perfect. Let's see. Yeah, 3D Gusners, you can pick, if you drop in 7 objects, you can make 7 objects purge to infill. So there's no limitation to how many objects you can put on there to set to purge to infill. It'll use all of them to purge into infill. So if you have a bunch of little things, so if you print a bunch of little tiny Marvins, more Marvins, the better. How much does it add to the, oh, for time, Billy, you're asking how much time or how much money, or, cause it does take more time. I think each wipe is like 7 seconds is for each wipe movement or traction and whatever. Hey Kim, no problem, man. I think that's Kim, KM3. I don't know. KM3. I do what I can. This has literally been, I've never been this exhausted. This has been a nonstop. I wake up at 3 in the morning, check this thing, wake up at 6 in the morning. I have a motion system that when that printer stops moving, it pings me on my phone. So I can come down here and look at it and see what's going on, because it's really smart. That's one of the things that I really like about this. It catches its errors. And most of the errors lead to you just a real easy user interaction. It tells you on the screen. That was one of the things that all of us beta testers were yelling at them, like, we need more information on the screen so we can repair the machine. And they did that. They sat down, they made a guide for how the lights work, a guide for the different lights will give you different calls when there's issues. It's become a lot more intelligent. It's actually a very intelligent little machine, all running off of this tiny board with a sheep on it. And don't ask me why I have 2 boards. I might have 2 of these. And they both work. But yeah, it's gotten very intelligent. And that was one of the things that us as the beta testers were, because they didn't have that. Remember, it was all in-house testing until we got ours in August, to the beginning of August. And And we're like, dude, this needs to tell us what to do because I don't know what to look for. That was a godsend from them. The developers sat down and they listened to us and they're like, okay, yep, we'll make it as intelligent as we can. And it's gotten even better. I don't know what the new firmware has. There's like a long list that they sent us and they're like, there's so much stuff we did. They kind of gave up sending us lists of what they changed because it was like 20 or 30 different fixes every single time they sent us a firmware upgrade. Which is interesting. Both MMU2 and the printer has firmware. And you should be getting a micro USB cord with your shipment, so you can upgrade firmwares if you have to. Which they kind of don't. They kind of want it perfect before. And I don't think they're pushing to make more updates on the firmware board. Not that it's hard. You still use Slicer. You plug it in. Slicer notices that it's there, and boom, you get your thing upgraded. Unless you're me and you have a Mac, and then it's like, I can't upgrade your firmware for your printer right now. What's the minimum they can get away with? I mean, minute. So all of my MMU2 prints, this is something you'll learn when you're doing MMU prints. You don't want the littlest amount of infill. Let me bring, it's tough. I wish, no, actually I've got prints that, I got some dead prints I can show you on. So if your infill is too small, they have to overlap. And if the infill is too tiny, these tiny little infill parts have a real hard time gripping. So, because you gotta remember, you got layer on layer and butted against butt stuff. So if these infills are too small, they can be very weak and things can break off. Like these fingernails, they just snap off because there's just nothing really holding it on there. It is also up to the designer to design better MMU prints. So like the technique you see in Mesh Mixer is horrible actually for MMU prints because it's just putting like a small shell. You want that shell to actually go inside the body a little bit more. So the more, usually around 15 to 20% infill is what I'd recommend for an MMU print, which is good because you can do the wipe inside of it. So you get a much more solid object that not only prints more reliably, but uses a smaller wipe tower. So you have less, wasted material. I know it's wasted into the infill, but you don't get a block. You don't end up with, the block can be smaller and lighter because this is mostly air in here. Let's see here. Currently printing a 2-color 150 millimeter tall trophy. Yeah, color swaps take time. Things with 2 colors, like when they're simple, this is no different than doing a color swap. And that's kind of the bonus on this, is you don't actually have to physically walk over and do a color swap. It's it's pretty fun. It makes life a lot easier. I mean, and scaling them is easy because you can print them. I'd printed these both at the same time and just let it kind of wipe and do its magic. So can't really do that with a color swap because you only do one color at a time swap versus that one did both colors at the same time. So just swapping back and forth to a purge block. And then someone said White Death Recon in Spanish. I'm trying to understand in real time. Good job, Chris. Thank you. I did what I could, and don't thank me too much. Trust me that I was probably in the middle ground for helpfulness in the beta testing. There were guys that were they're much more. I can be technical, but these guys actually knew what they're talking about technical, so they were able to actually get more done. That was important. Most of my contributions were these words don't make sense. Why are we, like, there was a step for attaching the cutting blade in there, and that step was like the second step in building the selector. And I'm like, I touched this blade like 5 times finishing putting all the little nuts and bolts in here, nearly cutting myself. Can that just be moved to the last step? Because it wasn't a relevant step to be early. So a lot of it was that. I didn't really, I honestly didn't do that much. It was mostly just printing, testing, and sending, observations like, this isn't working. Here's a picture of the tip from this material. And they were just figuring it out. So they're just looking at what issues I was having as I was printing, looking at the results, and then going, let's try this, and they'd send this, and then you just continue to keep printing until it's perfect. Let's see. No, the MMU2 released yesterday. The first shipments hit DHL or UPS yesterday. So everyone will get them in, should be 2 days from yesterday. So you should be getting, someone will be getting them in Europe probably by Friday. If not today, depending on how close they were. And if customs, or I don't know what they have, as long as it, you know, maybe if they're in Prague, they might get it really soon. So the release date is there. It's released. Hence why I can even post this video. I was told, well, I wasn't told. We actually, all the beta testers took they didn't tell us not to say anything. So that was kind of the interesting thing when we were asked to beta test. They weren't like, don't say anything, don't post anything. We literally were like, should we ever even say anything? And we all just kind of agreed not to say anything until it launched. Only because we didn't have all the information, because that would have been really bad. One of the things about when we're beta testing is if you asked me a question in the beginning, it would have been like, oh, I hate this thing. Because it was, again, it was a very, very rough beta the first like 3 days. And then they were like, oh, look, we fixed this thing. And I'm like, oh, why wasn't this day one? So yeah, it was just smarter for us to all wait until the machine was stable. And it's very stable now. You just make sure when you build this thing, let me talk a little bit about the build real quick. I've done it 4 times now, a full build of it. And it says, I think it says 4 hours for the build. My last build was an hour and a half, and it is hard to build. I'd say it's a little bit more technical than the Mark III, a full build of the Mark III, only because there's a lot of little parts, a lot of little steps, and there's a sharp blade that makes it a little bit more dangerous than the Mark III. It is a very technical build, and they say it's intermediate, and it is. I really feel it's an intermediate build, and make sure when you build it, don't rush. I videotaped all my build videos, and I sent them the build video so they can see, you know, where customers would make mistakes, where I had issues, where I had questions, because I don't think the blade. So talking about the blade, the cutter, they did something very intelligent. From the beginning, the blade was deactivated. There was no ability to use the blade. Their reasoning was very smart. They want the blade to be a last ditch effort. They want to make sure that the retractions are perfect and there's no issues, that way you don't have to use the blade. And to me, that makes so much more sense than, because if you begin the process of testing and the blade is there, you're going to use the blade as a crutch. So if you're getting, you know, bad tips or, you know, filament jams and you cut stuff and whatever, that's just a Band-Aid. You're not fixing the issues. And I don't think they would have gotten where they got if they had the blade enabled. And I don't think us as beta testers, because we asked for it. We're like, why isn't this thing? Oh, dude. Hey, Alexander. So, hey guys, Alexander just joined the chat, and he is the head developer over there at Prusa. Alex, if you're interested in joining us on chat right now, I would love to have you. I will add you to the chat, by the way. And thank you so much for all the work that you did for all of us beta testers that were struggling. And if you don't know, Alex took his Sunday. He gets Sundays off, and all of us all of us beta testers jumped online and had a Google Hangout. And he's like, guys, this is how you build it. This is, if you have this issue, this. And that was real appreciative, because again, with any build, anything that you build, Mark III, Mark II, whatever printer or thing you're building, there's certain interpretations that people do. They'll cut corners. And Alex set us straight and made sure we didn't cut those corners, and made sure we took that extra effort to make sure things were lined up. Because if things are lined up, it works perfectly. If things are not lined up, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the issue is. You think it might be a bad retraction, but it's really that you didn't take the effort to make sure things were lined up, and that's on you. And that was probably the best moment. I think everyone did a lot better in printing after that, except for that one guy. That one guy, Alex, that couldn't make a bad print. I think he had 6 failures out of like 100 prints. He was beast mode, all beta test, and I'm just sitting there like, I got one to print. Give me a cookie. No. But yeah, it was a super good time. It was definitely stressful. And Alex, thank you for putting up with me. Shane, Shane probably wants to come over and give you a really, really tight hug. A really tight hug. Yeah, if you want to find the fastest way to do something, give it to a lazy person. And that was me. Because it wasn't really lazy. I was just so excited. Like when I first got the box in, I'm like, oh my gosh. Because one thing about being in the States, I get an MMU cookie. I actually have some kind of cookies printed. But we got delayed. So there's only 2 United States beta testers, and because the customs in UPS, it was like everyone got theirs on a Friday. We got ours like on a Wednesday the next week or something like that. And that was, as soon as it came in, I think I didn't get home until like 10 o'clock, and I sat there until 2 a.m. building it, making the video, sending the video over to the beta test group so they can see how stupidly I built things, and where I was having issues. Because I just say them, I'd be like, this doesn't make sense. This screw's too long. Why is the screw this long? It's touching something I didn't like. I was still wrong in that. That was my fault. Yeah, I think I stayed up way too late, got it running, ran some prints. I don't think I slept. So I made some build errors. Also, Alex will probably, he could say it better, but I fought him a little bit on what parts I put on my printer. I was like, I can run this on whatever parts I want. Nope, no. He set me straight. Chris, you should go back to stock because that will increase the reliability. And I was like, okay, I believe you. Not. There is actually one change on here. This LDO motor is not the stock LDO motor. That is the newest one from Jason, who is one of the owners of LDO. He sent the better winding motor, and oh my gosh, it is much cooler. Let's see here. How often did blade? So yeah, Billy, to go back to how often does the blade need to be replaced? I don't think you need to replace it often. It's not. It's a crutch, and I think after all the work that they put in on the retractions, you're not going to need to use that blade very often. So the blade's probably not going to be used, more than a few times. Show us more prints. I don't have a ton. I did. A lot of my prints ended up with friends as I was printing them, or I'd give them away because one of my favorite ones was the 3-color Bomb Man, because again, I just love how curves turned out. And this is Filamentum Gray, Prusa Black, and Prusa Silver. Some of the other guys had prettier ones. I wasn't the one making pretty prints. Mine was mostly figuring out issues and stuff. I still love, I printed 2 of these at one time. The little dudes from that movie. I think his name is Pascal, but they named it. And it's funny, this is the Mosaic guy. So sorry, Mosaic, I used your prints on an MMU2. And I have more somewhere. Most of the prints are oh wait, hold on. Just because Alex is here. Where's my sheep? So this was the crowning moment. Alex was very sad that all my sheep had no heads, but I finally got it to work. Finally got me a sheep. It is so pretty. I still don't know the love of sheep, but this is amazing. So, bah. Is that what sheep make? It's not a goat sound, right? Let's see if anything else is going on over here. Anything fun going on? Nope, nothing's fun going on. So what other questions does everyone have? I'm here to answer them for a little bit longer. I don't want to be on here for too long. Because last one was 5.5 hours. I'm still very, very tired. Let's see here. 48 viewers and no questions, unless I've scrolled away from them. Nope. Ben, good question. There was not a TPU profile for us to try. Again, to go back to the make it perfect, they literally sat down and were like, we're going to make this profile perfect for as many filament brands as possible. And then we're going to move on to the next. And that's what they did. So right now the list is PLA, ABS. Alexander, that sheep is all because of you. So many bad sheep. So yeah, ABS, PLA, PETG, and BVOH. So those should be the four. Those are the four. And BVOH is water soluble in warm water. I do have a test for that. But Alex, get me my firmware working on my Mark III. I don't know why that's not updating. I don't know if you saw that. I posted that I can't update the printer firmware because you guys probably didn't make the Mac one work. And I don't feel like dragging my iMac down here or my printer upstairs to upgrade my firmware on my Parallels machine. Yeah, I haven't tested soluble supports. I have a bunch of BVO8, well, not a bunch. I have 500 grams, which is actually a lot because Prusa has set it up so only the interface layer is soluble support. So you don't need to waste a ton. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that you guys are helping me out here on that because I will drag my printer upstairs, but you know, I still need you to send me those little tiny Festo the PTFE tubes that you said were $10 a piece, the little inch ones with a cut, because I haven't cut those yet. Have you tried more than one type of film? I have not tried more than one type. Again, they were more focused on making sure one material is perfect. And for the longest time, it was just PLA because they really wanted to make sure that the first time user, which is going to be someone that's going to print PLA, can go out there and just print PLA. And it made sense. So PLA and ABS, they work. I will give you some pointers. You will want a PLA plus or a PLA PHA. They naturally, this is something I learned from David from Printed Solid last night in the 5.5 hour chat. Tips are better in a material that's a PLA plus or PLA PHA. So ESUN, any of the filamentums, the Prusa filaments, the new ones, not the old ones, Color Fab. So those will get you going really fast. I have used more generic filaments and some colors, because that's the thing is, color is also another thing that can change how a filament reacts because the dyes and pigments and such change the properties of the filament. So you might be using the blue and the blue works great, but they throw a white in and the white's like, why is this thing not working? Why is it stringy? And that's just welcome to materials. But if you pick a better material brand, like with anything, you will set yourself for success. I've tried cheaper brands and we're getting them to work. And the Prusa stuff works great. It comes with five filament holders. It comes with these things. It comes with these bad boys, little trays. You'll get these little injection molded Prusa trays with these super fun. Alex and I had an argument about these. Yeah, so the silk filament does work. So the silk filaments all work, and they're a little stringier. So I print them a little cooler. What brands do I recommend? Color Fab, Filamentum, ESUN. I have others to test. I have so many filaments. Basically anything that's a PLA plus or PLA PHA. Other print, yes, Thomas. There will be other. I bugged Alex. I mean, this is the thing is the fun thing about the beta testing was a lot of us were asking for features, and Alex is like, "Can we just get this to work before we ask for cool new features?" But yeah, they are planning to do some of those like cool color swaps and whatever. Where you use like 100, 50 millimeters of this filament and then another 50 of that one. All those things are planned. It's just not, they just wanted it to work as what people would use them for out of the box, which is, I want to print multicolor objects, and that stuff works. Have you tried the finish scraps feature, finished up in the ends of the same roll? I don't know what that is, Sam. If you explain, try the finish scraps feature. I don't know what that is. If you want to print single color, so Billy asked if you want to print single color, do you still feed the MMU, or can you switch directly to feeding via extruder? So here's a fun thing. If you want to print single color, you can literally just put a single color print in and say what extruder you want. So let's say, let's say, what colors are in your printer. Like, I want to print this in blue. You can, in blues on 3, you just tell the printer to print extruder 3, and it'll just load up extruder 3 and it'll print blue. So it's literally like an amazing color changer. You never have to swap colors if you want to print something in a different color. Let's see, pro tip with trays. I made a fillet weld, the rubber donut, because the trays, the little rollers, there's different methods to fix it. So Alex gave me the simplest method of fixing these things, because the bearings like to slide out. Put a little bit of super glue and then put that on one side, and you'll never lose your spool. You'll never dislodge that ever again. Let's see here. Ordered mine in June. It is going to be a long wait. I still have to wait for my official one. It works. Let's see here. Materials you normally use to wipe tower to make. What about use material which will normally be used for wipe tower to make supports? Oh, like wiping. So Joey's asking, can you wipe the material into the supports and make supports? The feature right now is it just uses whatever was already in. So instead of because remember, you got to purge. So whatever filament color it's on for that layer, that color is going to be used on the support. So it swaps back and forth. Let's see here. A little off topic. Have you ever tried refill filament? Yes. I actually was running push plastic refills. There is one downfall of push plastic. The filament's very brittle. And unfortunately it made really gross tips. I mean, it would work. The eyes on this little gecko dude, that was push plastic yellow. And it works. It's a lot grosser filament, and that needs to be perfected a little bit. Better color options for your Mark III extruder rather than having to paint the inside black. I don't know what that means, Ewan. Does Octoprint support? Ben, that's a good question. Just again, to start as a beginner playing with the MMU2, I did not hook up Octoprint to it. I didn't plug it in. I didn't have it there because most people, again, they're going to have their Mark III and they're going to have their MMU2 and they're going to print colors. So I do have an Octoprint set up on this printer, and I change it to aiming at this printer so I can watch it, because I didn't want to have issues with Octoprint with it and not know why. So I just been using the SD card because that's what most people would do. Alex would have to tell you whether or not it works with Octoprint, because I do not know. I will try it eventually. Hey, what up, Yasim? See ya, Mickey. Have a good one. Oh, he's talking about the sensor, I think. Oh, yeah, the sensor inside the MMU2 doesn't matter for the color because it's physical. It is a pinda with a ball. So filament goes underneath a ball bearing, the ball pushes up, and it triggers a pinda. Mine is, I have a pink one, and that one's black right now because they sent us a new update for that part. Ah, okay, Sam. This I didn't know. I didn't know that it would, when it senses a run out, it would switch to another roll. Not something that I had tested, but if Joseph says it's there, it's there. When can I test the Octoprint? I want to try other things first. I really want to they just launched PETG profiles. and I have so much PETG. So I really want to do that, and I also really want to get soluble support. So I'm at a little bit of an impasse here because I want to use soluble supports is like the coolest thing ever. That's one of the reasons I want a multi-material unit, because I want to print and I want to not have crappy supports. I want supports that look beautiful my prints look beautiful underneath those supports. So that is more of my goal. I think that's where I'm going to head my direction towards, is testing the soluble supports and giving my input on that. Thus no little scraps left at the end of the roll that you just can't finish a whole print with. I think there'll still be a scrap, only because the way the MMU2 works is the PINDA's after the filament sensors after the drive gear, the drive mechanism. So if the PINDA notices a fail, like the filament ran out, it should be able to switch and then butt up next to it. That I don't know. We shall see. That will be a future vision. I know the palette can do that. So when the palette 2, not the original palette, but when the palette 2 notices a run out, it can automatically swap to another color and continue going. So we shall see what the magic that Alex and all the other developers come up with, because they're still making things. They're still doing a lot more testing. It's not like the beta test just ended for everybody and we can go on vacation. We'll be continuing to be sent things, as far as I know, and things, because I mean, literally they just sent us more stuff today to look at and to do. What else you guys got? I didn't print much cool stuff. Most of it was figuring out why these blends don't work, and you get little errors. Like you'd have super successful print, and then all of a sudden, like, no, and then you're like, okay, this is the issue, and then you reprint it. But then they would send me something else to test, and I'd be like, oh, okay, so I don't know. I guess one of the reasons I don't have a ton of prints is because they made test prints for us to print, and they had different sequences in it and different ramming stuff and different settings and things. So we would get like 4 at a time. So here's, these 4 different prints, print them. And we would send back what issues we're getting with those prints. And usually they failed. And then they'd send us new prints with new settings, and they'd get a little bit better. So a lot of my stuff is failures. Because it was just constantly chipping away. And then the last like week, it's just been on and off. But every print takes 7 to 17 hours. So you can't get a lot of prints done in that time. Let's see here. Hey, Adami. I'm horrible with names. Ben, do you know multi-print and combine them into an MMU print? Oh, multi-part prints and combine them empty. So that's what this was. This was just a multi-part print combined, and you can select what colors you want, and it does the magic. Oh, I'm gonna have a drink now. I'm getting dry mouth. Oh man. I'm at such peace, but I haven't showered. I'm still wearing the same shirt as yesterday. I just degreased my face. Should I talk an MMU2 giveaway? I wish I had something to give away. I am drinking Canadian Dry. I stopped my addiction to soda pop by transferring it to an addiction for fizzy water. No problem, Ben. I do what I can. I'm trying to give away all the secrets, like how this thing transforms and turns into a robot, but you didn't hear that from me. That was a feature they added in beta. Boy, what else? Is there anything fun over here? No. Nope. I do have a Mosaic palette plus that I will be installing, so I get to compare them side by side, so I can give a little bit better input. I won't have time to set it up until after the weekend. Decepticons, yes. Or what's that movie? Not Short Circuit. The one where all the things turn into robots. All the like household goods start attacking people. Man, that was a good movie. I think it's a Stephen King book turned into a movie. Well, I have 48 viewers and no questions. Everyone is stumped. How many different Prusa machines do I have? I have 4, 2 Mark IIIs, 2 Mark IISs. One of the Mark IISs is just, I have the 2.5 upgrade. I just haven't had time because this thing has been eating. This has been eating my life away for the last 3 to 4 weeks. But yeah, four Prusas. No more Prusas unless they launch something like a Prusa Pro where it's like 300 by 300 by 300. Then maybe. But right now I'm good. I need to figure out which printer I'm putting a palette on, and I'm good after that. I do need to test some new parts from Vecco though. Oof. Sorry, if you see this, Vecco, I apologize that I have not tested your latest extruder. Do I think it'll work with a scale extruder? So that's a really good question. As long as the hot end is still using the Mark III heat break, and you've got it built correctly, I don't see why it shouldn't work. The only issue I can see is anything that's belt driven is only like 95 to 96% efficient. So I don't know if that's going to affect the retractions at all, because it is a very it's not a violent retraction, but in order to get the tips, it pushes film out very forcefully, and then it pulls it back out at like 600 millimeters per second to get the tips to break the little plastic tip off, and then you get this beautiful pointy tip. So it should work, and I wish I had one to test. I don't have enough machines to throw multiple different hot extruders on. One is printing almost basically always on a Vecco extruder, and then this thing had to stay stock for the testing because they didn't want us to go crazy on modifications. And then like, why is this guy not having any success? Well, it's because you kept modifying it. Maybe you're just full of perfect information. We are just careful. Yeah, I do have, there's a lot. I mean, I don't even know what to ask. I don't even know what to say half the time, just because it was more of an interesting experience being part of the beta team and going, you know, here's me frustrated that it's not working, and then here's me happy that it's working, and then it just continued. The happiness kept growing. I still get jams and issues, and most of that is the filament, because I was like, oh, maybe I can use this $10 roll of filament. Nope, that was not a good idea. I threw some, and that push plastic was garbage. Alex, have a good evening. Thank you for coming in here. If you ever want to do a live chat with us, please let me know. How much material is moved back and forth? So Anders, you're asking a great question. And one of the things that I've worked on is trying to get a better setup for the retractions and where that material goes. And there's a simple solution for those that are worried about keeping the material away from the airs. One of them is, I think I have it on my desk here. I just have to find it because I just put it together the other day. Just where did I put it? Well, I can't find it. You get a pass-through Festo. 2 of them. There's a Festo you can find on Amazon. It's $10 for 10. They are 4mm ID and a 6mm thread. And you get a dry box of whatever you want. So you can get just a Ziploc container. You can get whatever Rubbermaid container. And you put one Festo on one side, one Festo on the other. And you insert the PTFE tubes into that. And it'll run perfectly parallel. You know, you want them to be, you know, in aligned. And then when it retracts, that again, the filament will always coil where there's the path of least resistance. So it'll coil into that box. So there's different methods, and that's one of them that was talked about. There's one that I want to make, and I'm a horrible CAD person, but one that hides it under the roll. So basically you'd have a base, like this Tupperware container. This is a little bit too big, but you'd put the spool on top, and then there'd be a PTFE tube that goes into here, probably at the bottom, and then one out here, and that goes to the printer. And then when it coils inside of this, and it's underneath, and it doesn't have to be that big. It could be much smaller. I just have to test it because I found, for me, the best method is two loose pieces of PTFE tube trying to hunt each other. So one is attached to the spool holder, and then the other end is loose. And then when it inserts the filament, the other PTFE tube hunts and it connects, and you have a perfect link. And then when it retracts, it literally pushes away from each other, and it makes the loop. So you can do a wall mount. You can put the spool on top of a lack. You can put it underneath your desk. So mods for that are going to be coming out left and right. I'll be posting my STL for my little pass-through thing, because it is better. I like it better than the ones they have. Theirs works. It's just you have to have it in one spot, which is behind the printer, and that's annoying because desks are not as deep as they are wide, and so you'd have to set your printer up in an awkward position. Ben, I don't know how Hatchbox will work. I will say that Hatchbox has changed. We had David on here from Printed Solid, and they used to sell Hatchbox, and their material has slowly gotten a little bit less consistent. And it is just a standard everyday PLA, so it should work. I don't see why it wouldn't. It also prints at a lower temp, which is very good for that. Yeah, the rep box is amazing, and I have one ordered, and that is how I'm going to run mine. Mine is going to wall mount the rep cord box behind it, and it'll work perfect the way that the PTFE tubes work. Let's see here. DB, that's a good question. Can you swap out a color? Yes, you can. So when it's on another color, so let's say it's on color 5. Colors 1, 2, and 3 are disengaged completely. Color 4 is half engaged. So you can just yank out the end and put another end in. If you're you just hit pause and swap it in. There's no way to unengage the engaged filament. So if you want to change on the next color, that's an option. So you can definitely swap in another color. Will it be successful every time? I have no idea. Let's see here. I've been looking at rep box. Yes, get a rep cord box. Do you disable the printer filament? So Jason, are you asking if I disable the printer's filament sensor? You can do that. And then Mark, so yeah, you missed it. Recap. I was beta testing since the beginning of August. There's the Mark III with a MMU2. It's not running at the moment because the Mac version of Slicer is not able to update that at the moment. So they're reworking that firmware for me. So that way I was the only Mac user in the group. So I'll have that back and up and running later today. And it prints amazing. It took a long time to get there. I mean, it took, well, not a long time. It took the whole full 3 to 4 weeks for it to become amazing. It went from being very frustrating to them problem solving all of the issues that we had, and making a very reliable system for everybody. PLA will print like a champ on it. You might have little bugs here and there when it comes to the brand of filament, because some are just better at retracting. Things that are goopy and whatever are going to be a little bit particular, but they're continuing to find brands. That's a nice thing about having all the beta testers. We would post what brands of filament we're using, and we'd post a picture of the tips, and they'd be like, and then the next test of settings would then improve that. And right now it's probably like 95%. They work on most filaments. Yeah, it would be cheaper than going than putting together multiple MMUs into one. And I guess that is possible. It was mentioned that you could in theory plug up to 5 MMU2s into one MMU2 for a theoretical 25 color crazy system. That is the love of and yeah, you can make more. There is no limitation. You can, in the open, since it is open source, you can make that a 10 slot. You just need a longer rod and more. You can make more channels, and it should work. I don't see why. It would just take time for someone to figure it out, and you'd need parts. So, because there is one threaded rod. It's like this long. One motor with a threaded rod. One motor with a really long solid rod that holds all 5 of the hob gears. So, as long as you can find a way to get those parts for you, you could make. You just have to mess with the firmware, and I don't see why that would be so hard, because all of it will be open. I think the firmware for the MMU2 was out there too. I think I saw someone say that. What color did you choose? I had to pick troll farts. I don't know. It's orange and has a piece of black on there because they sent me a part, and I was printing parts, and I was like, I'll make this in black. All right, I think I'm out of stuff. Other than that, shout out to Joseph, shout out to Alex, shout out to the whole team at Prusa for making a very enjoyable, in the end, experience. I definitely wanted to take up drinking a few times. I know Shane did. I'll let that out of the bag. Shane was my other US beta tester, and he has a very busy lifestyle because he's on chat from noon to I don't know, like something to midnight or something to 2 a.m. every day. So his ability to test is very limited. And because we were in the USA, shipping to us took longer. So certain parts took longer. It just took us longer to get up and running. Those who are lucky enough to be closer to Prusa definitely had a benefit of getting their parts and systems much sooner. I'm envious of all of you guys that were in the other countries than us. But yeah, it was super fun time versus all the sleepless nights and collecting all of these towers from all the tests. I mean, it's so many towers. So there's a big one in there too. Yeah, this is the one from the Pascal. This guy, and some of the towers look awesome. So, and someone said moons on MMU. I don't know. Some of the stuff is motor specific. You want, especially for the retractions. I did run it on the moon's motor and it works. I don't know about putting it on the rest of it though, because everything is pretty well tuned. And then there are trinamic drivers on the MMU2, so that is also pretty darn silent. So that is a bonus for all of us that they didn't go back to crappy drivers. Yeah, this board has, I think, 3 trinamic drivers on it. Yep, this board has 3 trinamic drivers on it. I don't know which ones though. That is some tiny writing. Oh, 2130s. So yeah, this also has 3 2130s. I have never used. That was actually one of the things they liked about me being a beta tester. I never had an MMU. Never had the one. So this is the first time I've ever used anything that was multi-material. And the guys who had the MMU1 definitely had far more success in the beginning than the ones that were not, because they were able to, they knew how to change certain aspects of the purge, not the purge, but the retractions and ramming sequences. So they were able to just, yeah, this is what I did last time and it worked great. So they had an advantage, but they wanted that. They wanted some people that had no idea what they were getting into, like me. I had no idea what I was getting into. Yeah, and troubleshooting was definitely a lot easier if you've had an MMU1 because it was, again, a very particular machine, and a lot of people had frustrations trying to get it to work. And so they had guys that were amazing, with their MMU1. You're going to see a lot of cool parts coming out because a lot of the test prints that I haven't shown you are test prints that were developed by some of the guys there. Prusa has been making test prints, not test, they just prints that are 5-color, 3-color. There's a 5-color SpongeBob coming out. I haven't printed it yet. I'm so sorry I haven't printed that yet. But my goal was to get the colors in. I actually didn't have yellow, and at least not one that I liked. But I just got a legitimate crate of colors. Most spectacular failure. I think the Adelina is my most spectacular failure. This one was. I have one that looks great, but this one, it took almost 2 days to print, and I didn't realize I was missing layers. I have another one that's perfect. I have tested purge to object, so this is purge to object. It was just a 2-color, but you can see I was alternating the 2 colors I was purging into it. So it gives you a cool effect if it's just 2 colors. 3 colors would have 3 stripes, and et cetera upon et cetera. But yeah, I didn't have any major failures. I have a lot of headless sheep. So which is, a lot of headless sheep. This is with the push plastic. No, this is with 3D Solutech plastic. This happened from a power outage. I was almost done, and it made it past. I even forgot to put supports on it, and it was printing great. Yeah, that is a beauty. What else do I have in here in my I have here's another. There's another headless sheep, and it was going to have a yellow face, and this one I remembered supports on. Even broken. Oh, look at this. Another sheep. It missed the blue layer. So nothing really too spectacular. Most of the failures were just minor. Like this one was like, oh, I just missed a layer. And this is an older sequence for the ramming, so it just didn't work. You're still here, Alex? It's because I brought the sheep. Yeah. Did you hop on back here to tell me that you fixed the firmware for me? Nah, I'm just kidding. It can, I think. I never tested, but my power outage was I had hired someone to install new electrical stuff in my basement because I just rebuilt all of this. I added 3 new desks I built. So I have 3 workbenches down here now versus having, I have 5 now instead of having 2. So my printers are much more, much easier to get to. But yeah, we're going to get the headless STL. Gustner, dude, I can tell you where to get that. You print it and then just stop printing it 90% of the way through. And then you make Alex sad. But yeah, he came in here and started working, and we just turned off the printer, and I was like, I'm not going to come back to this. So I just popped it off the print bed, and does anybody have his own power supply? It is plugged directly to the board. You'll do a very minor alteration to the INC Rambo box. You'll snip a little corner against the frame, just enough to run a power and a the control thing, which plugs in right above the pin, not above the pin, above the filament sensor. So John, yes, they have shipped. It is official. And yeah, I don't have a UPS installed on it. We normally don't get power outages out here ever. It just doesn't happen. We have really good power service. Even during a big storm, it's very consistent. I just, I decided that I wanted to upgrade. I added plugs on the other side. See, this was added, so I actually have power running directly where the printers are on its own surge, or it's on its own breaker. That way it's just better. I also added a plug above me so I can plug all the stuff in. But yeah, John, they have launched. Yesterday was the first shipments. So everyone should be getting them by Friday, Saturday, if not Monday. That we're in the, I mean, very, very early release time, which I'm taking a wild guess that they're going from first order to last order. So first in, first out. So you'll start seeing them in the wild. This is just a beta unit, which should be exactly, I think the parts haven't changed. I haven't looked at the files, but they never told us. They only told us one part changed, and it was a part that we could test. They changed the selector a little bit. This little guy, they changed a small modification to the selector. So let's see here. Let's see, shouldn't be an issue. Let me draw checks if filament is inserted, and then yeah, the math is sound on there, and that was one of the things that was real fun because yeah, the hot end lift may fail too, but what was I going to say? Yeah, the Pinda and all the stuff in there, the catch, the fail-safe systems that they've put on there are very, very good. So if things run out or filament gets snagged or doesn't retract properly, it's very intelligent. It tries to fix itself, and if not, it does warn you. The screen will pop up telling you that you need to do something to the MMU if something is going on with the MMU. Yeah, we don't get weird power fluctuations either. We have, I'm very close to a nuclear power plant. It's a town away. It's a 30-minute drive to a nuclear power plant. So I get really good clean power here. We also have a lot of wind power in my town. So in all the farmers on the outside. I'm in a very big town surrounded by a lot of little towns. The town with the power plant has like a population of like 10,000 people. And that's if it will be here. I think they're closing that one down, but there's still another one not too far from here. Oh, man. Yeah, that explains why I have no hair. It's the nuclear power. I actually took a field trip there, and it was, so here's a fun story. I was in AP physics in high school, and we took a field trip to, no, it was AP Chem. It was an AP chemistry class, and I was also in that. And we took a field trip to the power plant, and one of the kids decided to be really cool. We actually had like a 1960s radioactive elements kit, which didn't know that was a thing, but yeah, you can buy little lab kits that tell you about radium. And so these little glass jars with little radioactive sources. The moron decided to keep it in his pocket and walk in there, and they have alarms. They have lots of alarms. As soon as he entered the building, the alarms went off because a source was noticed, and he had to have a very, very fun bath and a very fun time while the rest of us took the tour. And then we're very angrily told that there will be never, ever another field trip to the nuclear power plant ever again. So it's probably why I'm bald and I love 3D printing. Yeah, shutting down a coal plant would definitely do that, but that's good though. Shutting down coal is good, right? I don't know. Yeah, so that was my youth. Then that was not me that had the source. I'm not blaming on someone else, and I was the one who did it. I actually did take the tour, and I got to taste like pure water, which was really gross because it has no flavor and it's very dry. Yeah, it basically tasted like my mouth, very dry. Yeah, I think, let's see. Yeah, I don't know what children think. I don't know if he thought he was funny or why he brought it with him. He is now a chemical engineer in California. So he's a smart guy, but we all make bad decisions. So don't, remember, kids, even though you make bad decisions, you can still become a very smart person. Oh wow, they're getting rid of all the nuclear power plants in Germany. It's a bold move. Anything to move towards a cleaner power source makes me happy. Maybe they will 3D print some turbines for some wind power, but let's see. Yeah, I don't think they want anyone that's drinking alcohol before work. I wish we were more on solar. So that's one thing my city has not done. Our state of Illinois does do a subsidy if you want to install solar on your roof. And it's actually a pretty nice subsidy. It basically pays for your whole house to get installed with solar, but we don't have any solar initiatives. I think it might just be the fact that we're very cloudy. The Midwest is pretty bleh. John, good question. So that is one of the bonuses with going with the palette. Their latest software program does allow painting, which makes the object know what colors you want certain parts to be. That is not part of how Simplify 3D or Cura or how Slicer do multi-material prints. They do what's called multi-part to multi-object. So you actually have to go into Mesh Mixer or another program and cut out the parts you want. Will they add painting? They have 8 developers. They can come up with other magical nonsense that they want. And we just get to benefit from the fact that they do those things. So I would love to see that, because that is the one big limit. That's one major limiting factor to multi-material printing, is the number of objects that are multi-material and multi-color are they're just a lot less of them. Making that step easier is the right way to go. I wish Mosaic would make that open source. I wish that everyone could get that technology sooner. But at this point, we are stuck with the old school method of chopping up pieces in Mesh Mixer and trying to make it try to make those multi-material, multicolor prints. So soon, I've been experimenting, I've been learning. So I will hopefully make a video on how to do that, because the ones I've seen confuse the heck out of me, because they won't really follow along as much as, cutting and going to certain things. I'd like to see the whole process and follow along. I'm one of those people. I love a full follow along where, here, grab this STL. Let's all go together and follow along so you can learn better. Which makes for very long videos, but All right, one last pass of questions, and then I am going to finally eat. I haven't had breakfast or lunch. I saw that they posted the article, and that allowed me to speak up about what experiences I had. Because again, with great privilege comes great responsibility. So I decided to keep as silent as I could on it, and it was very difficult, because when you get a really cool print, you're just like, but yeah, the Mesh Mixer stuff confuses me, but if Tinkercad can cut it apart, I might download Tinkercad and try that. Hey, what's up, Graybeard? Graybeard, you're the one that hosts the Graybeard Filament page, right? The one with all the different colors and how they look when they're printed and little write-ups. Ooh, delicious. Yeah, you didn't miss too much. It was mostly a bunch of rambling. I basically wanted to say something about my experience and not be super technical. I'm not the best person to ask on the technical aspects, because they told me specifically to pretend I was a beginner. Online only, but yeah. So I really took that to heart when they were like, "Okay, Chris, stop trying to fix things mechanically. We have it working mechanically. The rest of it is us figuring out these things." So 50 guys there, so hit the thumbs up button. No, so yeah, so that is the right Graybeard. You should add a section of which materials are best for multi-material printing. That would be a fun thing to add to the composite list. Like, will this print easily for that? Do I have any? No. So that is a fun thing. I used the stock settings the entire time and they work great. They really, again, like these prints are super smooth. They really tone down the speeds on perimeters, and the prints are gorgeous. They're very little artifacting, if any. So I went with all the and these aren't Vertigos. These are all the Prusa. This is Prusa Black and Prusa Silver. This is Prusa Red. That's our lipstick red in there. So I was sent some specific colors to test with, and they're all Prusa. The Prusa has a bunch of colors coming out. This one has Vertigo Gray. So the body is Vertigo Gray, and the eyes are Prusa Black, and so is the little bottom jaw, and then Prusa Silver. Yeah, Graybeard. I had I had David from Printed Solid, one of the owners, on last night for 5.5 hours, which is amazing. And he talked about what materials tend to be better for MMU materials, and he was talking about PLA Plus and PLA PHA combo, which are again the color fabs, the filamentums, the Prusas, the eSun. We still need. Yeah. You should see, once you see more of the test prints pop out from the other beta testers, you'll be wowed. Some guys went crazy. The prints were beautiful. I was not printing the coolest stuff. I was just trying to get fun things done and keep up with the amount of tests they kept sending. So the guys who were passing the test successfully moved on to just slicing their own stuff and making cool things happen. I just continue printing tests. Let's see. Yeah. And so yeah, Graybeard, when you do get that, it'd be great to see which ones make better tips. So eSun, the Joseph, so they just sent me that STL yesterday. They sent us the first one, which was the Joseph, just the figurine, and I had not had a chance to print it. And we're like, well, why not the one riding the sheep? And they go, well, you guys all have to print him, 5 of him successfully, and then you can get that. It's like an unlock challenge. So, but eSun isn't, I wouldn't say it's a higher quality filament. It's just a different mix. It's a PLA Plus, and the PLA Plus, it works better with retractions. So your retractions will be less stringy, and the tips will be much better. So I bought a case. I have 10 rolls that just showed up today of eSun, so I can run it through the MMU. John, I have not. Nope. The MMU is stock. The only thing that I have changed is I have a different spool holder attachment. So I didn't want to be the black sheep. See, Alex, I didn't want to be the black sheep of the test group and just go like, well, I can put on Lin Motors on here and crank it up to 500. Yeah, I didn't want to be that guy. So I kind of stayed as mellow as I could. I was like, I will keep the tinker on me. Yeah, so if in the UK, get Color Fab and the Filamentum print perfectly in the MMU. A lot of the guys were printing that because most of the testers were overseas. Those 2 brands were going awesome. The Polyalchemy elixirs do really well. Some colors are a little bit stringier than others. So the green and the night sky, the emerald green and the night sky, and the gold were awesome. They printed amazingly. The pink, the little salmon color, I forget what it's called, that one was a little bit more particular, and I haven't tweaked it. It worked in this one because there's that pink. It worked great in that one. But the emerald green and the gold rush and the night sky, and that's Prusa red, the lipstick red for the lips or for the tongue. Those printed great. Let's see here. But yeah, filament matters. And I have some Make Shaper film. That's what I added. So this is Make Shaper blue, and I have Make Shaper crimson, and then I'm going to put some eSun over here. And that's my next test, is to see what that happens. But I have to wait for the firmware. So whenever Alex gets that. Yeah. I think that's it. I think I'm good. I'm going to go get some food. I'm going to take a nap. Post questions on this post inside the Prusa community group, Facebook group, and I will try to get to them. But that'll be later. I need some work. I need to do some work, my actual work. So I need to do some editing. I promised some images this evening. So when I'm editing, I'll pop back and forth. I should go eat. I'm so hungry right now too. And I'm going to go get me a nice sandwich. Filament of UK. So you guys have fun. Thank you all for joining, and get your questions on the Prusa community page, or you can find me on Your Daily Micron on Twitter. I'm trying to be a little bit more active on Twitter because that's apparently where all the 3D printer people are. So have a good day. Everyone enjoy. Stay out of trouble. Hug yourselves. Yeah.